Hello students, today we are going to start with our next chapter, that is the load flow studies. Okay, and it is the next part that we have previously done, like Y bus formation, impedance, Z bus formation and all that. So the next part is the load flow studies. And under this heading, we have to cover the different contents like data for the load flow studies, then swing bus, actually the different types of buses that we have to study in this, formulation of simultaneous equations, the equations that are related to the load flow studies, then iterative solutions by the Gauss-Seidel method and Newton-Raphson method. Otherwise, there are lots of methods to perform the load flow analysis, but in our syllabus we have to do only two methods, like Gauss-Seidel method and Newton-Raphson method, and these are the iterative methods, like the number of iterations are required to be run to get the exact solution. So there are different methods. So these are the contents that we have to cover under the load flow studies. So let's start with the basics, that what is load flow or power flow analysis. Okay, so load flow analysis is the backbone of power system analysis. That is our subject, that power system analysis, the main calculations that is of the load flow. How much load flow is that on a particular bus or from any particular substation and all that. It is required for planning, operation, economic scheduling, and exchange of power between utilities, expansion of system, and also in the design stage. Okay, and it is required for all that. If there is requirement of any new planning of any new system or any economic scheduling that we have already covered in our previous subject, economic scheduling, like how much thermal plants are to be loaded, or how much thermal plants are how many units are to be in the shutdown condition, or how much in the running condition, like that. All the future planning depends upon the load flow analysis. Load flow studies or power flow studies is the analysis of a power system in normal steady state condition. Okay, it gives the complete analysis under different conditions. Load flow studies basically comprises of the determination of voltage, current, active power and reactive power. Okay, so these are the main calculations which have to be performed as per some of the equations that we are going to derive in the load flow studies. A load flow study is the network carried out by an electrical engineer. The purpose is to understand how power flows around the electrical network. Load flow analysis is an important prerequisite for whatever you do in the power system. Whether you do fault studies, stability studies, economic operation, etc. That means for these studies also, firstly, the load flow analysis is required. Only then you be able to do the fault studies or stability studies and so on. The load flow helps in continuous monitoring of the current state of the power system, that how much load is flowing on particular bus. Okay, so it is used on daily basis in the load dispatch centers or power system control centers. Okay, in carrying out the load flow study, it is necessary to mathematically describe the electrical network and carry out the calculations to obtain the desired results. So first of all, some equations have to be derived, and from that equations we can be able to see what the voltage, current, active or reactive power is flowing in the circuit. Most real life studies are also solved using softwares. Okay, so generally softwares are developed to perform the load flow analysis. Now, what are the inputs and outputs of the load flow analysis? So for the any load flow analysis, firstly, the different types of inputs we required are bus data, that how many buses are there in that system, 4 bus system or 5 bus system or 10 bus system and so on. Then line data, Line data means what is the resistance or inductance, impedance of that particular transmission line that is connecting the two buses. Okay, that is the line data. That is the information about R, X, Z, and so on. Then generator or load data. How many generators are there? What is the load on any particular system? So these are some of the input data that we have to must know before performing any load flow analysis. Bus data, line data, generator or load flow data, load data. And the outputs from the load flow analysis are in the form of voltage, magnitude, voltage angle, real and reactive power, current flow, how much current is flowing, that we should able to know from the load flow analysis, then the different losses in the system. Okay, so these are some of the outputs. And just in another form, the input data is the bus data, that it may be a PV bus, PQ bus, slack bus. So this we are going to study in further slides. And line data like transmission lines, transformers. Okay, then the output is in the form of voltage magnitude, voltage angle, then real and reactive power, and then the power losses. Now, very important, that is the different types of buses. Okay, now what is a bus? A bus is a node at which many transmission lines, loads, generators are connected. Okay, on any single bus, the transmission lines, generators, loads, or any other equipments that are connected. It is not necessary that all of them be connected to every bus. Okay, so it is not necessary that each bus contain all these things. Okay, like some of the buses contains generators only, or some other buses contains loads only. There are no generators like this. Okay, so it is not necessary that all the buses be connected with all the different transmission lines, loads, or generators. Bus is indicated by a vertical line at which the number of components are connected. Okay, generally it is simply represented by a straight line. In load flow study, 2 out of 4 quantities. What 4 quantities? These one: voltage magnitude, voltage angle, real and reactive power. These 4 quantities. Okay. In load flow study, 2 out of 4 quantities are specified, and other 2 quantities are to be determined by the load flow equation. This is for each bus. Okay, like for each bus, 2 quantities are specified. That means 2 are given and 2 are not given, or 2 are known and 2 are unknown, like this. Okay, depending upon that, the buses are classified as, so this is the main classification of buses. There are 3 types of buses. One is the load bus, second is the voltage controlled bus, and third is the slack or swing bus. Okay, now see the different types of buses. Like each system node has 4 key parameters. What are these 4 parameters? One is the active power, another reactive power, then voltage magnitude, and then voltage phase angle. So accordingly, as per these 4 parameters, there are 3 types of buses. One is a load bus, that you also called as PQ bus. Okay, another is the generator bus, or you also called it as PV bus, and another is the slack bus or swing bus. Okay, now in case of load bus, or which you have called as the PQ bus, a bus where real and reactive power are specified. As we know that P is the symbol for real power and Q is the symbol for reactive power. So in the load bus, P and Q are specified. P and Q are given. P and Q are known to us. And the voltage magnitude and phase angle, these one, okay, voltage magnitude V and the phase angle delta. The voltage magnitude and phase angle is calculated by the study, okay, by some of the load flow equations. And this type of buses are most common. So in the complete power station or substation, the most common type of buses are the PQ buses. Okay, and comprising almost 80% of all the buses in a given power system. That means if you said that in some any particular power system there are 10 buses, then out of that 10 buses, 8 buses are PQ buses. So these type of buses are most common buses. Okay, and 80% is their approximate percentage of presence in the any power system. Now the next type of buses are generator buses, and these are also called as PV bus. A bus at which the voltage and real power, see, P is real power and V is voltage. Okay, a bus at which voltage and real power generation is known. So in the generator bus, PV is known, and what is that not known? That is Q and delta. Okay, these are we have to find out through the study. The reactive power and phase angle of the voltage are calculated by the study, and this bus is always connected to the generator. Okay, whenever this bus is present in the system, it is always connected to the generator. So that's why it is called as the generator bus. This type of bus is comprising about 10% of all the buses in a power system. Okay, so it is present about 10%. And next is the slack bus or swing bus, where the voltage magnitude and phase are assumed known. Okay, so in the swing bus, voltage magnitude and phase angle, these are known, and unknown are active power and reactive power. These two are not known to us, and these two are known. Okay, active and reactive power are calculated by the study. Normally, there is only one bus of this type in any given power system. Okay, in any power station or in any substation, the number of swing bus is always one. It is always one in number. One generator bus is selected as the reference bus, or sometimes any generator bus is selected as the swing bus, or you can also call it as the reference bus. Okay, in slack bus, voltage magnitude and angle is normally considered as 1 plus j 0 per unit. Okay, generally this in the form of per unit, na, the per unit base values are selected in such a way that key swing bus has the voltage and angle as 1 angle 0 degree. Okay, magnitude 1 per unit and angle 0 degree, and that in the per unit system. So that is the swing bus, and in general swing bus is actually a generator bus, and out of all the generator buses present in the system, any one generator bus is selected as the swing bus or as a reference bus, or also called as a slack bus. Okay, now just comprising this in the tabular form, like the different types of buses, known or specified quantities, unknown or quantities to be determined. Like for the slack bus or swing or reference bus, V and delta are known and P and Q are unknown. For generator bus, or you can call it as the PV bus, or you can call it as voltage control bus. Okay, in this bus, P and V are specified and the unknown are Q and delta. And similarly for the load or PQ bus, P and Q are specified and the unknown are V and delta. So you must remember these three types of buses and their quantities, that what is known and what is unknown on that particular bus. Okay. Now starting with the load flow problem. So let's start our load flow problem with a simple system of two buses. Okay, so in this figure as shown here, it is a simple system of two buses are there, and generators are connected to them. So power generated at ith bus, any bus. I means maybe it number 1 or maybe it number 2. Okay, so the power generated, it is given by SG. G is the generation, generated power. is equal to S is the apparent power, which is the sum of active power and reactive power. Okay, here P is active power, Q is the reactive power, and it is written in the complex manner. Okay, like you have written the complex number na, A plus iota B, and in the similar form here we are using, in place of iota we are using here J, small j, and S is the apparent power, P real power, Q reactive power. So SGI is equals to PGI plus J times QGI. Okay, and similarly the demand power at the same bus I, SDI, D is here the for the demand, is equals to PDI plus JQDI. Okay, therefore the net power injected at bus I is as follows. So the net power is, it is given by generated power minus demand power. Okay, so when you are subtracting these two equations, so it becomes PGI minus PDI. Okay, that means the real power should be subtracted together, plus J QGI minus QDI. Okay, reactive power should be separated together, and that is equals to net PI plus JQI. Okay, that is the net power injected at bus I. Now, the main derivation for the load flow analysis in a power system. So the load flow analysis in power system by the complex power injected by the source into the ith bus of a power system is, we know SI is equals to PI plus JQI. We have recently done here. Okay, SI is equals to PI plus JQI. What is PI? It is the generation minus demand. Okay. And this is equal to VI into JI conjugate. Okay, so just J is the current source. Here I is the number of buses. It depends upon how many buses are there in the particular system. Whether 2 buses there, 4 buses there. So we have considered here in the journal form N buses are there in the system. Where VI is the voltage at the ith bus with respect to the ground, and JI is the source current injected into the bus. Okay, now the load flow analysis is handled more conveniently by the use of JI rather than JI conjugate. Therefore, taking the complex conjugate of the above equation we have written. So just take the complex conjugate of this equation and it can now become, here when you're taking it the complex conjugate now, so this PI plus JQI then becomes PI minus JQI. Okay, and this equals to VI conjugate into JI. Okay, now this conjugate is shifted to this VI and JI remains as the simple JI, and I varies from 1 to n. Now we know that JI, it is equals to the summation of YIK into VK. So what is Y? That is the Y bus that we have covered in our previous chapter. Okay, YIK is the admittance of 2 buses. Like it may be Y23, it may be Y13, it may be Y34. Okay, so depending upon the number of buses in the system, so JI, it is equal to the summation of K is equals to 1 to the number of buses N YIK into VK. K is the number of buses. Therefore, just put down this value of JI in this equation. So PI minus JQI, it is equal to now VI conjugate, and instead of JI, just write down this summation of K is equals to 1 to n YIK into VK. Okay, I varies from 1 to n, and as seen on this summation sign, K also varies from 1 to n. N is the number of buses. Now equating real and imaginary parts. So as seen from this equation, now the next step is to equate the real and imaginary parts on both sides. As on this side, the real part is PI, imaginary part is QI. Okay, so we have to equate the real and imaginary parts now. So real part is PI, PI is the real power, and it is equals to real part of this. Okay, this one, the real part of this, whatever be the. Okay, so and imaginary part on the left hand side it is Qi, that is the reactive power, and it is equals to minus times imaginary part of this equation. Okay, why it is minus sign? Just see here, because here is minus JQi, and this minus we are shifted on this side, and now it becomes minus imaginary part of this equation that is on the right hand side. Now, and in the polar form, it can also be written as Vi is equals to Vi magnitude e raised to power j delta I. Okay, what is the delta? Delta is the voltage angle. Here V is the magnitude, and similarly Yik we written as Yik magnitude Ej theta. Theta is the angle for the admittance. Ik, here it is Ik. Okay, and these equations can now further be written as this one. So Pi is equals to Vi, this one, this is Vi, summation of k is equals to 1 to n, okay, Vk, Yik, cos of, because we know that for the real partner, it's, if you want to write this, just see this equation. This equation. This is in the complex form, like Pi minus JQi. But in the form of cos or sine, you can write them as cos of theta plus J sine of theta, like this. Okay, so we know that for the real part, their terms comes out to be the cosine terms. And for the imaginary part, there comes out to be the sine terms. So in that form, it can be written as Vk, Yik, the magnitude of both these, cos of theta Ik plus these voltage angles now, delta K minus delta I. Why the delta I is with the negative sign? Delta I is related with this Vi. Delta K is related with this Vk. And why here is negative sign? Because there is conjugate on the Vi. That's why. Okay, because here is conjugate with Vi, so that it is written as theta Ik. Theta is for the Y admittance. Okay, here you see, here the angle is represented as theta. Here the angle is represented as delta. Okay, so it can be written as cos of theta Ik plus delta K minus delta I. Delta I is for the Vi voltage. Okay, for this voltage, and I varies from 1 to n. And similarly, for the reactive power, for the imaginary part, it can be written as minus this negative sign, Vi magnitude, summation of Vk magnitude, Yik magnitude, sine of theta Ik plus delta Ik minus delta I. Okay, why here is minus? Because there is a conjugate on the Vi. That's why. Okay, so this is how you can write the or separate the real and imaginary parts for P and Q. And actually these will be considered as your load flow equations. Now see here, the real and reactive power equations represents 2n power flow equations at n buses of a power system. See here, as for each load flow equations, for each load flow calculations, we have to solve these two equations. Okay, for n number of buses. If there are, let us suppose if there are 4 bus system, then we have to solve 8 equations. 4 equations for real power and 4 equations for reactive power. So there are total 2n equations, 2n power flow equations at n buses of power system, n real power flow equations and n reactive power flow equations. So the total becomes n plus n, that is equals to 2n. And each bus is characterized by 4 variables. Okay, P, Q, V and delta, resulting in total 4n variables. So the total number of variables on each bus, okay, that are 4. So if there are n number of buses are there in a system, then the total number of variables in the whole system becomes 4 times n. And equations can be solved for 2n variables, if the remaining 2n variables are specified. Okay, so in these two equations, V and delta are known, and only then we can be able to find P and Q. Okay, so in this equation, V and delta are known, and we have to find P and Q from that equations. Okay, so that means 2n variables are known to us and 2n variables are to be unknown variables that have to be found using the power flow equations. Practical considerations allow the power system analyst to fix a prior two variables at each bus. The solution for the remaining 2n bus variables is rendered difficult by the fact that equations are non-linear algebraic equations. As you see here that these equations are non-linear algebraic equations. So it is little bit difficult to solve these equations manually while performing the large number of iterations. So what's the best method to do or to solve these equations through some softwares? Okay. The solution of the non-linear algebraic equations and bus voltages are involved in product form, and sine and cosine terms are present in the equations. And therefore, explicit solution is not possible. Solution can only be obtained by iterative numerical techniques, in which we have to run different iterations to get the perfect solution. Okay, so it generally requires some iterative procedures to solve these load flow equations. And real and reactive power equations are referred to as static load flow equations. Okay, so these equations are called as static load flow equations. As we have seen here that these include some cos and cosine terms. So it is little bit difficult to solve these equations manually and to get the correct result in each solution. So the number of iterations are required to be run, and after certain iterations, we can able to achieve the perfect solution. So there are different methods to solve these equations, and these are called as the static load flow equations. Okay. Now, some of the constraints are also there. That means some of the limitations are also there for these equations. Like for static load flow solution, to have permanent practical significance, all the state and control variables must lie within the specified practical limits. Like there is some practical limits for voltage or some angles for active power, for reactive power. These values must lie within the limits. Like generally the limit for the voltage is some minimum or maximum limit is there, like between 0 to 220 say. So similarly, there is some minimum to maximum limit for the angle also, some for real power or for the reactive power also. So the voltage magnitude VI must satisfy the inequality constraint, this one, that this VI magnitude must lie within its some minimum or maximum value. So this must be taken care while solving the equations. Okay, the power system equipment is designed to operate at fixed voltages with allowable variation of plus minus 5 to 10% of the rated values. Okay, and voltage angle delta I must also satisfy the inequality constraint, like delta I minus delta K must be within its the limit, must be less than some maximum value that is specified in the numerical or in any station. So this constraint limits the maximum permissible power angle of the transmission line connecting the buses I and K, and is imposed by the considerations of system stability. And similarly, PGI and GI are the constraint as follows, like the real power, generated real power must be within its some minimum and maximum value. And similarly, the reactive power is also within its some minimum and maximum value. And these limit values, these are given in the question. Okay, and you have to take care these minimum and maximum values while solving these equations, static load flow equations. Okay, so these are some of the constraints which makes all the calculations related to the load flow analysis a little bit difficult to be solved manually. Okay, so and it is stated that the total generation of real and reactive power must equal the total load demand plus losses, that we know. This generated power, it is equals to the demand power plus losses. And similarly for the reactive, it is also equal to the reactive demand power plus the reactive losses. So where PL and QL are the system real and reactive power loss respectively. Now, as load flow equations being essentially non-linear algebraic equations have to be solved through iterative numerical techniques. So iterative numerical techniques are required to solve these complex equations. So there are some of the methods or solutions for the load flow problems, like Gauss-Seidel load flow method is there, Newton-Raphson load flow method is there, fast decoupled load flow method is there, and many more methods are there in the system. And in our syllabus, we have to do Gauss-Seidel method and Newton-Raphson method. And in the above mentioned load flow methods, the voltage solution is assumed first, and then the iteration process can be proceeded until the reach of convergence. Convergence here means until the reach of exact solution. Okay, so next there we start with the different methods for the load flow studies. Okay, so now let's start with the Gauss-Seidel method. Yes, Gauss-Seidel method. Gauss-Seidel method, and generally it is called as the GS, is an iterative algorithm for solving a set of non-linear algebraic equations, okay, that we have just derived as static load flow equations that are solved using this method, Gauss-Seidel method. To start with, a solution vector is assumed based on the guidance from practical experience in the physical situation. Okay, how to start solving this method? Like we have seen that these are the equations that we have to solve. Okay, so in the starting, we just assume the solution for Vk, or these admittance values are generally given in the question. The data is given for Y, but for the voltage and these angles, so we generally assume them as one angle 0 degree. Okay, we generally assume 1 plus, or you say J 0 degree. That's it. Okay, so we start with our solutions with this assumption. One of the equation is then used to obtain the revised value of a particular variable by substituting in it the present values of the remaining variables. Like the values for admittance and other variables are given in the question, and the equations are solved. One of the equation is solved firstly by using some assumed value for voltage or for angle. The solution vector is immediately updated in respect of this variable. Okay, the process is then repeated for all the variables, thereby completing one iteration. Okay, like by substituting one assumption for voltage and angles, we got some of the answers for P and Q. Okay, then we start with the next iteration. Okay, by using the previously calculated values. The iterative process is then repeated till the solution vector converges within the prescribed accuracy. That means this iterative process continues till we achieve the similar type of results in some of the consecutive iterations. Like if we are go through the 15 or 20 iterations, and between 15th iteration and 20 iteration, we got the same answer. Okay, then we stop. Convergence is quite sensitive to the starting values assumed. Okay, then it is also very important point ki convergence, that means how much iterations it will take, it depends upon how accurate is our starting assumption. Okay, if our starting assumption is deviate away from the exact solution, then we need lots of iterations to achieve the exact answer. But if our starting assumption is quite near to our solution, then the convergence will achieved in a less number of iterations. Fortunately, in a load flow study, a starting vector close to the final solution can be easily identified with previous experience. Okay, so this is a simple procedure how to solve the Gauss-Seidel method. Now, let it be assumed that all the buses other than the slack buses are PQ buses. Okay, so this is the first assumption for our Gauss-Seidel method, that all the buses are PQ buses and only one bus is there, that is the slack buses there in the system. The slack bus voltage being specified. Okay, so there are n-1 bus voltages starting values whose magnitude and angles are assumed. Okay, because we know that for the slack bus, voltage and angle is generally taken as 1 angle 0 degree per unit. Okay, so for the slack bus, voltage and angle is specified, whereas for other n-1 buses, the voltages, angles and magnitudes are to be assumed. So these values are then updated through an iterative process. And it is not sure that our assumption is correct. So these values are updated in each iteration. Like if we assume that for starting value for other buses is 1, okay, angle 20 degree. And after each iteration, it is improved to 5, to 10, to 20, and so on. Okay. So during the course of any iteration, the revised voltage at the ith bus is obtained as follows. And how the voltage is revised? Like this is our equation that we have already done in the load flow analysis. That is Pi minus jQi. It is equal to Vi conjugate into Ji. Okay, I varies from 1 to n. That is the number of buses. And Ji is equals to, which is the current source vector. It now becomes equal to Pi minus jQi divided by Vi conjugate. Okay, this from this equation. And also Ji is equals to summation of k is equals to 1 to n Yik into Vk. This we have already done in load flow analysis also. And k varies from 1 to n. Y is the admittance, Y bus admittance information, and Vk is the voltage at the kth bus. Okay, then Vi can now be written as, it is 1 upon Yii into Ji minus summation of Yik into Vk. So it can be written in this form also. Okay, because we know that in this equation, when k is equals to 1 to n, when k is equals to I, okay, in the course, when k is equals to I, then here it comes out to be Yii and Vi. Okay, and so from that equation, the Vi can be written as 1 upon Yii into Ji minus summation of Yik into Vk. But here in this summation now, k is not equal to I, because we are separated when k is equals to I. We have separated that term, and from that term we have calculated Vi. So Vi comes out to be equal to this equation, and just mark this equation as number 2 now. Now substitute this for Ji, this one, okay, from equation 1 into the equation 2. This Ji, that is Pi minus jQi, divided by Vi conjugate. Just substitute this value of Ji here, and we got this equation as our Gauss-Seidel equation. That is Vi is equals to 1 upon Yii, and here in place of Ji, just write down this Pi minus Jqi divided by Vi conjugate minus summation of k is equals to 1 to n. K is not equal to I now. Yik Vk. Okay, and I varies from 1 to n. N is the number of buses. Let's mark this equation as number 3 now. The voltages substituted in the right hand side of equation number 3 here are the most recently calculated updated values for the corresponding buses. During each iteration, voltages at buses I is equals to 2 to n. Why here we have not taken 1? Because 1 is considered as the slack bus. So the number of buses for I that is taken from 2 to n now. See here also, it is from 2, 3 up to n. Are sequentially updated through the use of equation number 3. V1, the slack bus voltage being fixed, is not required to be updated. Iterations are repeated till no bus voltage magnitude changes by more than the prescribed value during an iteration. The computation process is then set to converge to a solution. Okay, when we got the same results in the consecutive iterations, for 4 to 5 iterations, if we got the same results, then we said that our solution is converged properly. Okay, so this is the formula to calculate the voltage in the next step when the previous voltage is known to us. Okay. Now, the algorithm for the Gauss-Seidel method. Algorithm for the load flow solution. The number 1, with the load profile known at each bus, P and Q, allocate PGI and QGI to all the generating stations, while active and reactive generations are allocated to the slack bus. So this is necessary as voltage magnitude and angle are specified at this bus. With this step, the bus injections Pi plus JQI are known at all buses other than the slack bus. Okay, what does this mean? That for the first point, we must fix the values for the demand powers and generated powers for the other buses. That is our starting. Okay, and with the each step, we are going to calculate the new values for that. Now, the second step, assembly of bus admittance matrix. Y bus that we have learned in our first chapter. So with the line and shunt admittances data stored in the computer, Y bus is assembled. So why the Y bus data is required? Because in the equations we need this Y admittance values. Okay, like here for 2, 3 value or for 3, 4 value for the particular admittance. So that for that values, we need to calculate the Y bus first from the given data. Next, number 3, the iterative computation of bus voltages. Now, finally, the iterations for the calculation of voltages. Like for I is equals to 2 to n. To start the iteration, a set of initial voltages is assumed. Okay, the starting value is assumed and set equal to 1 plus J0. Generally, this value is assumed for the starting of the voltages and except the voltage of the slack bus, which is fixed. It should be noted that the n-1 equations of equation number 3, this one, the same equation number 3, in the complex numbers are to be solved iteratively for finding the n-1 complex voltages like V2, V3 up to Vn, or the number of buses in the system. Now see here, for at bus number 2, because we have to calculate the voltage for firstly for bus number 2, then for number 3, then for nth bus. Okay, so for bus number 2, V2, it is equals to 1 upon Y22. See the equation. It is Vi is equals to 1 upon Yii. Okay, Pi minus JQi. All i's are here. Okay, So it can be written as V2 is equals to 1 upon Y22 P2 minus JQ2 divided by V2 minus Y21 V1. See here the equation again. It is YIK. Okay, VK. Now here it is not I. Okay, K is not equal to I. So it is written as the admittance values with other buses like Y as bus number 2 voltage is written. So 2, 1, 2, 3. You have not to write 2, 2 here. Okay, K is not equal to I. You do not have to write 2, 2 here. So V2, 1, 2, 3, then V3 minus Y2N Vn, like this manner. And all these with the negative signs. See here again, minus summation of that. Okay. So similarly at bus number 3, it can be written as V3 is equals to 1 upon Y33 P3 minus JQ3 divided by V3 minus now Y admittance with respect to bus number 3. All the admittances with respect to bus number 3. So Y31 V1 minus Y32 V2 minus Y34 V4 minus Y3N Vn. Okay, so for the kth bus, any bus K, the voltage at the R plus 1th iteration is given by the equation like Vk for the kth bus, Vk for R plus 1th iteration. If there are many number of iterations there in the system, then for R plus 1th iteration, it is 1 upon Ykk in the similar manner, Pk minus Jqk in the similar, Vk. And here you see here that here is V3, here is also V3. But what is the difference between the two V3 voltages is that means this V3 voltage is the previous, belongs to the previous iteration, not the latest iteration. Okay, so that's why here it is written VKR. That is the value of Vk that is obtained from rth iteration. That is now put down in R plus 1th iteration. Okay, minus summation of, now we are writing this again in the form of summation, Yki, I is equals to 1 up to K minus 1, Vi, here it is Vi, R plus 1. Okay, because here the summation is moving from I to K minus 1. So Vi up to R plus 1. Here it is R plus 1th value minus summation of I K plus 1 to N. Because this kth bus is in between the N buses. Okay, so I K plus 1 to N. So Yki V1 of previous iteration R. Okay, so this is the procedure that you must have to remember while solving for the Gauss-Seidel method. So this is the equation that we are going to apply in our numericals also. Okay, mark this equation as number 4 now. Here R is the previous iteration and R plus 1 is the current iteration. In the above equation, the quantities Pk, Qk, these Ykk and Yki are known. These are the known quantities and they do not vary during the iteration cycle. These remain fixed in each iteration. Okay, and the iterative process is continued till the change in magnitude of bus voltage, that is delta Vi R plus 1 between the two consecutive iterations is less than the certain tolerance for all the bus voltages. Okay, that means these iterations remain continued till we achieve the similar results in the consecutive iterations. That is delta Vi R plus 1 is equal to del Vi R plus 1 minus Vi of the previous iteration. This is the current iteration. When we subtract both, that must be if it is less than some tolerance value. These tolerance values are generally taken as sometimes 0 or sometimes as 0.1 0, 0, 0, 1, like such a little value is taken as the tolerance value. Okay, so if the difference between the consecutive values for the different iterations is very, very, very less, then we stop our process. Or otherwise, if similar values are achieved in the consecutive iterations, then again we stop our iterations and said that our solution converges. Okay, so this is the procedure for the Gauss-Seidel method. So this is the equation that we have achieved from the Gauss-Seidel method. That is how to improve the value of voltage from its previous value. Okay, the previous value is given by this VKR, that is for the rth iteration, and this VKR is for the next iteration, R plus 1th iteration. Okay, so this is the final equation. Now let's start with the numerical part. Okay, so this is the numerical. It is a 3-bus system, bus number 1, bus number 2, and bus number 3. Okay, bus number 1 is considered as a slack bus where the voltage and angle is given. Okay, and this one is the data for transmission line. It is given here 0.02 plus J 0.04, and here it is 0.01 plus J 0.02 and 0.012 plus J 0.02. Okay, and there is the generator is attached to the bus number 2 with 100 plus J 50, and this one is the load 120 plus J 30, and here no generator is attached to the bus number 3. Okay, so the bus number 1 is considered as a slack bus of the voltage this much. The line impedance are indicated on the network on 100 MVA base. See here, the base value is given in the question. Okay, that you have to take this as a base value and neglect the line shunt admittance by using Gauss-Seidel method. At the end of the first iteration, determine the magnitude of voltage and phase at bus number 2 and 3. Okay, so that means in the bus number 2 and on bus number 3, you have to find out the voltage and its phase angle. Okay, so this is the question, and you have to run the Gauss-Seidel method up to first iteration only. Okay, so starting with, as we have done the algorithm part, so what is the first step? First step is to formulate the Y bus for any power system given. First step is to formulate the Y bus, as it is a 3 by 3 bus system. So the Y bus is a 3 by 3 matrix. And what is, we know that from direct observation, so that Y11 element is the only the admittances that are connected to the bus number 1. So here it comes out to be Y12 plus Y13, and Y12 element comes out to be minus Y12. Here it is minus Y13. Okay, minus Y12, Y21 plus Y23, minus Y23, and so on. Okay, so in this way, you have to formulate the Y bus matrix first. So what is now Y12? As the data that is given in the question, it is in the form of impedance. Okay, here it is written. The line impedance are indicated on the network. So this one is impedance, but our requirement is for the admittance. So firstly, you have to convert this impedance data into the admittance data. Okay, see here, the Y12 comes out to be 1 upon Z12. So what is Z12? That is connected between bus number 1 and bus number 2. So this 0.02 plus J 0.04, this one is your Z12. So take the reciprocal of this and you got Y12. Similarly, as 0.02 plus J 0.04, multiply its numerator and denominator with the negative sign and just solve it, and you got this value 10 minus J of 20. That will be act as your Y12, that is the admittance between the bus number 1 and bus number 2. Okay, and similarly Y13 comes out to be 1 upon Z13. Z13 is given in the network, so it comes out to be 20 minus J40, and Y23 comes out to be 22.05 minus J 36.76. Okay, now just fill these values here in the Y bus matrix, just fill them and you got this as your Y bus matrix. Okay, so this act as your admittance matrix. Now starting with the Gauss-Seidel method. As before starting the applying the direct equations for the Gauss-Seidel method, firstly we have to assume that the voltage at bus number 2 and voltage at bus number 3 initially is assumed as 1 per unit. Okay, generally the assumption is taken like this, 1 per unit angle 0 degree, like this. Okay, and this is the equation to modify the voltage or to just calculate the next step of the voltage. So set the iteration count P is equal to 0. Bus number I is equal to 2. Okay, now we have to apply this equation. Okay, this one is the same equation that we have already derived here, this one. So this is the same equation. Okay, and just put down the values. So bus number is 2. So V2, iteration number is now 1. The first iteration 1 upon Y22 P2 minus JQ2 V2 0, matlab previous value, that is the value taken from the previous iteration. Okay, minus Y21 V1 first iteration minus Y23 V3 previous iteration. Okay, because previous iteration that values is taken as 0. Here why V1 is taken as for the present iteration, because the voltage for V1 is remained fixed. That will be our slack bus. So there is no change in the previous value or in the current value. So that value remain fixed for V1. Okay, and here this voltage is written for the bus number 2. So that's why here is Y21 and Y23. Okay, the admittances that are attached with the bus number 2. Okay, if there is Y21, then you have to write here voltage V1. And if here it is Y23, then you have to write V3 like this. And similarly for V3, okay, V3 voltage, that is 1 upon Y33, P3 minus JQ3 divided by V3 initial minus Y31 V1 minus Y32 V20. Okay, now simply you have to put down the values. Just see here like this. Now, as in this, we must know before doing all the calculation, the values for P2 and Q2, P3 and Q3. Okay, so for that, we know that P2 is equals to PG2 minus PD2. Okay, PG means the generated power at bus number 2 and demand power at bus number 2. So PG2 minus PD2, and this is taken as 100 minus 120. Just see the question again. So generated power is 100 at the bus number 2. Generated power is 100 and the demand power is 120. Okay, so 100 minus 120, that will come to be your P2. And similarly, Q2 comes out to be 50 minus 30, like this. Okay, just come here again. So it comes out to be 100 minus 120. So it is minus 20. And now to convert it into the per unit, divide it by 100. So this is your actual value of the power, but we want its value in the per unit. So minus 20 divided by the base value is 100. Okay, so it comes out to be minus 0.2 per unit. Now similarly for Q2, it is QG2 minus QD2, that is 50 minus 30. It is given in the question here, 50, 30. Okay, 50 minus 30, that is equals to 20 divided by 100, and it comes out to be 0.2 per unit. Okay, and similarly, therefore, P2 is equals to minus 0.2 and Q2 is equals to 0.2. Now put down the values. So here it is 1 upon Y22. So Y22 is 32.05. Just see from this Y bus. So this is Y22. 32.058 minus J 56.76. Okay. 1 upon this minus P2 minus JQ2, ठीक है, it is P2 minus JQ2, this is P2 minus JQ2 divided by V2 initial value that we have assumed it as 1 minus, okay, here comes out to be Y21 and V1 is assumed, it is given in the question 1.04, it is the given in the question slack bus 1.04, okay, and Y21 it is minus 10 plus J20, okay, minus 10 plus J20 1.04 minus again then Y23 this value, just see from the Y bus matrix, and the assumed voltage that is 1, and just solve this all and you got this as answer in the complex form. Okay, now convert it into this form, magnitude and angular form. So this comes out to be 1.0147 with angle minus 0.275 degrees. Okay. Okay, and how to calculate this angle now? So it is given by delta 2 is tan inverse of imaginary part divided by the real part. So what is the imaginary part? This one. Real part is 1.014762. Okay, just divide, take its tan inverse and you got this delta, that is minus 0.275. Okay, now similarly calculate V3 voltage. Okay, this is the answer for your V2 voltage, and now for the V3, the equation now comes out to be 1 upon Y33, P3 minus JQ3, V3 naught is the initial value, that is 1, minus Y31 that is taken from the Y bus, V1 that is given in the question, minus Y32, take it from the Y bus, V2, now take here V21, okay, that is calculated in the previous step, this one, this value is now put down here, okay, and P3, as we know that there is no generator on the bus number 3, okay, there is no generator on bus number 3, so there is no generated power, only demand is there, so it is written as 0 minus 30 and minus 0.3 per unit, and for Q3 it is 0 minus 50, so divided by 100 it comes out to be minus 0.5 per unit. Okay, so these are the values, just solve it and get the answer for V31, and that will be your final answer as per the question. Okay, this being the numerical for the Gauss-Seidel method. And see one more numerical. A 3-bus system is shown in a figure. The relevant per unit values of the admittances on 100 MVA base are indicated on the diagram. So these values like here J minus J3, minus J4, minus J5, these are the admittance values. Okay. And determine the voltage as bus number 2, this, and at bus number 3 after the first iteration using Gauss-Seidel method, take the acceleration factor 1.6. Now we have to use this factor also, just check it. And this is the data given. Okay, bus number 1, this is the bus number 1, 2 and 3. Bus number 1 is considered as our slack bus, and here the voltage is given as 1.02 and angle 0 degree. This is the fix. Okay, and this we have to find out. Okay, and here the PQ values, bus number 2, you see the generator is connected on bus number 2. No generator is connected on bus number 3. So for the generation, it is 25 and 15, the values for P and Q, and load values at bus number 2 is 50 and 25, and here on bus number 3, it is 60 and 30. Okay, so now let's start. Here in this numerical, also we have to follow the same steps. The first is to formulate the Y bus. Okay, as here again, it is a 3-bus system. So Y bus comes out to be a 3x3 matrix. So Y11 is minus J3 minus J4. दोनों को add कर दोगे तो it comes out to be minus J7. Okay, similarly Y22 comes out to be minus J3 minus J4 minus J8, and similarly Y33, just the addition of all the admittances that are given in the question. Okay, and Y12, it is equal to Y21, it is minus of minus J3, that is J3. Okay, similarly for Y23 and for Y31. And one thing, just see here that we are writing the Y bus by direct observation method. Okay, we are not applying any singular transformation or step by step. We are just by direct observation, we are writing the Y bus. So this become our Y bus matrix. Okay, now next step is to calculate the powers. Okay, now P2. P2 is equals to generated power minus demand power. So generated power is 25, demand power is 50 divided by the base MVA, and we got minus 0.25 per unit in per unit basis. See here, it is 25 here and it is 50 here. So 25 minus 50. Okay. And similarly, Q2 comes out to be 15 minus 25 divided by the base, and it comes out to be minus 0.10 per unit. And similarly for P3 and Q3, there is no generated power on P3, bus number 3. Okay, so here the values are 0. Okay, so these are our per unit values for P3 and Q3. Now directly applying the formula, okay, VKR plus 1 by YKK, and this formula, just as we have done in the previous numerical, in the same way, you have to calculate the voltage for bus number 2 and for bus number 3. Okay, just see here. Firstly, this one. V1, it is given in the question 1.02. Okay, and this one is VK0. Matlab, the initial assumption for bus number 2 and for bus number 3. So it is, we assumed one angle 0 degree for K, 2, 3, and so on. Okay, now firstly calculate for bus number 2. So V2, 1, that is 1 upon Y22, P2 minus JQ2, V2 initial that we have assumed as 1 minus Y21 V1. V1 is fixed, no change, minus Y23 V3 initial. Just put down the values, get the result, convert it into the complex form and also in this form. Okay. And now one thing after this, check delta V21. That means what is the difference between the voltage that we have recently obtained and the initially assumed voltage. Okay, recently we got 0.9955 minus J 0.0312, but initially it is that we have assumed here, it is minus 1 plus J0. So this is the difference. Okay, this one be your delta. And so one more factor, that is the accelerated value for V21 is now given as, use this formula to calculate the accelerated value, that is the initial value plus alpha into delta V. Okay. So this is the initial value. This alpha, it is given in the question, acceleration factor. Okay, this one, acceleration factor, it is given here 1.6. Okay. 1.6 multiplied by this delta value. Okay, just put down here and this become your accelerated value for V2. Okay, now similarly calculate for V31. Okay, so this is the equation. Here you have to calculate, put down the value of V21, not the initial value now. Just put down the value of V2 that we have calculated here. Okay, here you have to use the accelerated value. Okay, just put down all the numerical values, do the calculations, and you got this as a result. Then calculate delta V3, that is this V3 minus the assumed V3. So that is 1 plus J0. But that on subtracting, we got this answer. And for the accelerated value for V3, so this is V3 initial plus 1.6 delta V3. So this one is your delta and it comes out to be this one as V3. So these are the answers for V1, V2 and V3 after first iteration. Okay, so this one be your numerical for the Gauss-Seidel method. Now advantages and disadvantages. Firstly, the advantages: simple calculations and less programming task. Okay, less memory requirement because calculations are simple, equations involved are less. That's why less memory requirement from the computer hardware point of view. Then useful for small systems. Okay. And disadvantages are require large number of iterations to reach the convergence. Okay. The convergence should not be attained so easily in case of Gauss-Seidel method. So large number of iterations are required if we have to deal practically with any power system circuit. Not suitable for large systems. Okay, it's not suitable for large system. The calculations become very tough. The convergence achieved becomes very difficult. Convergence time increases with the size of the system. Okay, that we have already discussed. If the system becomes large, so it is very difficult to achieve the convergence, to get the exact solution. Okay, so these are some of the disadvantages for the Gauss-Seidel method. Okay, so now let's start with the Newton-Raphson method. The Newton-Raphson method formula is a powerful method of solving non-linear algebraic equations. Okay, it works faster and is sure to converge in most cases as compared to the Gauss-Seidel method. That means it is fast method and convergence is achieved earlier as compared to the Gauss-Seidel method. It is the practical method of load flow solution for large power networks. It is also applicable to the large networks also. Its only drawback is the large requirement of computer memory, which has been overcome through a compact storage scheme. Okay, large computer memory is required because lots of equations are involved in this method. As we have seen that in Gauss-Seidel method, there is only just a single equation. Okay, that is for the voltage. Okay, but in case of Newton-Raphson method, there are lots of steps involved to get before getting the final result. So that's why large requirement of computer memory is there. Convergence can be considerably speeded up by performing the first iteration through the Gauss-Seidel method and using the values so obtained for starting the Newton-Raphson iteration. Okay, so this is very important point. That means how the speed of convergence is improved. That is by doing the first iteration for any system using Gauss-Seidel method. Then after that, Newton-Raphson method is applied to that. Okay, like as in the Gauss-Seidel method, before starting the first iteration, we assumed all the voltages as 1 and angle 0 degree. But here in the Newton-Raphson method, so we start the first process using Gauss-Seidel, but afterwards we convert it into or we start then cover the rest of the steps with the Newton-Raphson method. Okay, so this is the basic about the Newton-Raphson method. Now it's mathematical formulation. Now first of all, assume that all buses are PQ buses. PQ buses means load buses. So we first need to rewrite the complex power equations as equations with real coefficients as. So in this we have to firstly rewrite all the equations again. And so S is equals to V into I. Okay, S is our apparent power. I is for any bus, ith bus, that is V into I voltage for the ith bus and current for the ith bus, its conjugate. Okay, now I can be written as the summation of k is equals to 1 to n into admittance into voltage. So it can be written in this form. Okay, and take its conjugate. Okay, so conjugate comes on the individual admittance and voltage. Okay, and we know that admittance is equals to conductance plus J of susceptance. Okay, GIK plus JBIK. Okay, what is G? G is the reciprocal of resistance. What is B? B is the reciprocal of reactance, X. Okay, and V is equal to VI. It can be written in this form also. So VI angle theta I. So net angle theta IK that is included here. It comes out to be theta I minus theta K. Okay. So this angle is for the voltage. Okay. Why here it is minus theta k? Because here is theta I angle is for VI voltage and theta k angle is for VK voltage. And but here is the conjugate sign, so that's why it is theta I minus theta k. Okay. And also, what is EJ theta? That is a normal mathematics. We know that it is cos of theta plus J sine theta. Okay. Now, just rewrite again. So SI is equals to PI plus JQI, real power, reactive power. It is equals to VI, this one, YIK conjugate, VK conjugate. And it is further written as VI magnitude, VK magnitude, EJ theta IK. And instead of YIK, we are going to write here now GIK minus JBIK. Okay, like this. And further, it can be written as VI, VK, this AJ theta IK. So this can be written as cos of theta IK plus J sine theta IK into G minus JB. Okay. Now separating them into the real and imaginary parts. So real part, this on this side, left hand side, Pi. So this is equal to summation k is equal to 1 to n Vi into Vk, because these are the constant parts, and Gik multiplied by this cos theta Ik, and one real part that comes is this, comes out to be minus J square sine of theta Ik into Bik. So what is J square? That we know it is minus 1. So minus J square, it comes out to be plus Bik sine of theta Ik. So this will be the real part, and this is equal to further equal to Pgi minus Pdi. And similarly, this is the imaginary part. And for the imaginary part, the first term is cos of this one, the first term, J sine theta into Gik. Okay, this is the first term with positive sign, and with negative sign, this term cos of theta Ik into Bik, this minus. Okay, and this is further equals to Qgi minus Qdi. Okay, so in Newton-Raphson power flow, we use Newton's method to determine the voltage magnitude and angle at each bus in the power system that satisfies the power balance. So we need to solve the power balance equations as, so these are the same equations, just these are the equations, just we are going to shift these on this side and equal to 0. Okay, just check here. This is the same equation that is here on the right side, shifted to the left side. So minus Pgi plus Pdi is equal to 0. And similarly for the reactive power. And for convenience, it can also be written as, just write Pix for this and Qix for this, or just denote this as Pix and denote this as Qix. Okay. The power balance equations are now becoming Pix minus, just rewriting this equation again, as this is now Pix minus Pgi plus Pdi is equals to 0, and Qix minus Qgi plus Qdi is equals to 0. Okay, what is? We're just denoting this as Pix and denoting this as Qix. Now assume the slack bus is the first bus. Okay, with a fixed voltage angle and magnitude. We then need to determine the voltage angle and magnitude at the other buses that we have to determine. So we must solve a function x equal to 0 where x is equals to, this function is related to the all the angles theta 2 up to theta n. Why not theta 1 is here? Because the angle for theta 1 and voltage is fixed. Okay, and similarly voltage is also from V2 to Vn. Okay, this is x function, and fx that we have to calculate is all the equations related to the real power and reactive power. See here, these are the equations now. I is the bus number, okay, that varies from 2 to n. Okay, so here it is P2x minus Pg2 plus Pd2, and next is the P3x minus Pg3 plus Pd3 up to Pnx, nth bus. Okay, similarly for the reactive power. Okay, so this has to be solved. Now the power flow is solved using the same procedure discussed previously for journal equations, like for v is equals to 0, make an initial guess of x, that is x0. The first step is to make the initial guess. Okay, for solving these, firstly we assume that initially it is of 1 per unit, like this. Okay, and the values that are achieved and calculating their delta values, that must be greater than the tolerance value. Okay, so this is the tolerance value, and for this we have to do just small program type. So that is x v plus 1. So that is for the next iteration, x mu. Here this one is mu. Okay, mu is equals to 0. That is for the 0th iteration. And x mu plus 1, that is the next iteration, x mu, that is the previous iteration, that is 0, minus j. Here what is j now? This is actually we are doing this in the coming part, that is the Jacobian matrix. Okay, j x mu, take its inverse f x mu, and this now increment the iteration. That means next iteration is mu is equals to mu plus 1 and n. So this is a small algorithm type or program type for the solving these equations. Now just see j. Okay, so this is the power flow Jacobian matrix. Okay, the most difficult part of the algorithm is determining and factorizing the Jacobian matrix. So lots of calculations are involved for solving this Jacobian matrix, and it is solved by differentiating each element of the function with its particular value. Okay, like function f1 is there, so it is differentiated with respect to x1. Okay, firstly, then for the next element of the matrix, the same function is differentiated with its second element. Then the same function is differentiated with its next element. One thing note down here, that why here it is 2n minus 2. As the number of equations, see here, the number of equations here it is, if for n number of buses, the total number of power flow equations are 2n, that we know. Okay, we have already covered this in the previous lecture also, that there are n equations for the real power and n equations for the reactive power. But here see, the real and reactive power for the slack bus is missing. Okay, so that's why here it is 2n minus 2. Which two equations are missing? That is for the slack bus. Okay, so that's why here comes out to be 2n minus 2. Otherwise, there are total 2n equations, n for real power and n for reactive power. But here it is 2n minus 2. The two equations that are for the slack bus, that we have not to calculate. Okay, so similarly for the second row, you have to differentiate the second function with respect to x1 first, then differentiate with respect to x2, and so on. And similarly for the this nth element. Okay, so here it is 2n minus 2, with firstly with respect to x1, then x2, and then with 2n minus 2 element. Okay, and Jacobian elements are calculated by differentiating each function with respect to each variable. Okay, so if this is the function, like if this is the function for ith element, then you have to differentiate it with respect to theta I first. Okay, then any other bus theta j. Okay, for theta I, so it comes out to be, we know that the differentiation for cos, it is sine. Okay, so here comes out to be minus gik sine of theta ik, and the differentiation for sine, it is cos, so it is plus bik cos of theta ik, and these are the constant terms, not differentiated with theta. So that's why here it is, they are 0. Okay, and these remains the same. Okay, and similarly, when differentiate them with respect to theta j, so then here comes out to be theta I j. Okay, theta I j. Okay. Okay, so this is all about the mathematical formulation for the Newton-Raphson method, and rest of the steps are same. Now let's start with the numerical that is related to the Newton-Raphson method. Then it is more clear to you. Okay, like in this numerical, it's a simple numerical that we have taken here. It is a two-bus system. Okay, for the two-bus power system shown below, use the Newton-Raphson power flow to determine the voltage magnitude and angle at bus 2. Just only at the bus 2, you have to calculate the voltage and angle, but by using the Newton-Raphson method. Assume that the bus 1 is a slack bus. Okay, this is our assumption that it is a slack bus, and the base value is given 100 MVA. Okay, it is given. The line impedance is also given in the diagram, that is Z is equals to 0.1 J. Okay, and this data is given here. The load is taken from here, that is of 200 megawatt and 100 MVAR. Okay, now let's just start. Now the unknowns are X is what we have to calculate. We have to calculate the voltage and angle at bus number 2. Okay, so the unknowns are theta 2 and V2. Okay, just write the Y bus. So Y bus is Y11. It is simply, just see here. Firstly, convert this impedance into the admittance. Okay, then you're going to calculate the Y bus. Okay, so this is your Y bus. Actually, when you invert it, na, impedance, it comes out to be J10. Okay, minus J10 actually. So on the diagonal elements, it is written as it is, but on the off diagonal elements, they are written with the negative sign. So here comes minus of minus J10, so it comes out to be J10 with plus sign. So this is your Y bus. Now the general balance equations are these two equations that we have already seen. Okay, now for bus number 2, the power balance equations are the real power is 2 per unit while the reactive is 1 per unit. Okay, just see here. See here. Okay, as the base given is 100 MVA. So what is the real power on this bus number 2? Just divided it by 100. So this gives you 2 per unit. And reactive power 100 divided by 100. So it is 1 per unit. So that's why real power is 2 per unit and reactive power is 1 per unit. Okay. So real power is 2 per unit and reactive power is 1 per unit by dividing the actual values with the base value that is given in the question. So it is, these equations are now written as V2, V1. Okay, we are going to calculate for bus number 2. So our ith bus is 2. Okay, V2 magnitude into V1 magnitude, Ks is 1, G is 10, sine, actually G is 0 here. Okay, because as you seen here that okay, there is no real part in this. Only the imaginary part is there. So G is 0. So this term comes out to be 0 plus B is 10, 10 sine of theta 2. Okay, plus G is 0. There is no generated power on the bus number 2. So this PG, this comes out to be 0 and PD, it is 2. Okay, so plus 2, which is equal to 0 now. Okay, now for the second part, this one, and here V2, V1, there is no G. So this component comes out to be 0. Now we have to write this. B is 10. So minus 10 cos of theta 2. Okay. Plus here you have to write down for V22 also. Okay. When I and K are equal. Both are equal. Okay. So it comes out to be V2 square into 10 plus 1. Okay. 1 is for the this one, reactive 1 per unit. Okay, this one. Okay, and this is equal to 0. Now, P2x plus 2 is equal to as, now this is equal to further equal to this, and this is further equal to this. Okay, so here P2x plus 2 is now equal to V2 10 sine theta 2 plus 2. Okay, and Q2x plus 1, it is equal to this. So these are the same equations that we have written here. Actually, we represent these equation as P2x, see here. Okay, we have represent this part as with x function, this as with x function, and rest remain the same. Okay, but where here we have written this complete equation, this one, and for this equation, this part is P2x. Okay, this part is Q2x. Okay, so P2x plus 2 and Q2x plus 1, these are equal to this. Okay, now next step is to calculate the Jacobian matrix. So Jacobian matrix is just differentiate with respect to the each variable. So firstly differentiate P2 with respect to theta 2 because our unknowns are theta and voltage. Okay, next differentiate P2 with respect to voltage. Okay, similarly differentiate Q2 with respect to theta 2 and differentiate Q2 with respect to voltage. Okay, so these are our equations. Okay, now differentiating them, so we got this as a result. We know the differentiation for sine is, it is cos of theta 2. So here comes out to be 10 V2 cos of theta 2. And for this 10 sine of theta 2. When with respect to V2 we differentiate now. So only this part comes with us, 10 sine of theta 2. Okay, now differentiate this with respect to theta 2 first. So differentiation for cos is sine. So it comes out to be 10 V2 sine of theta 2. Okay, then when it is differentiated with respect to V2, then firstly comes minus 10 cos of theta 2 plus 2 times V2 into 10. Okay, so that comes out to be 20 V2 and its differentiation is 0. Okay, so you have to differentiate these two equations with respect to theta 2 and V2. Okay, now next is for the iteration number 1. This one, this mu is the iteration number. Iteration number 1, initial guess that it is 0 and it is 1. Okay, so first element fx0 it is. For 0, 0, just P2 0, 10 sine theta 0 plus 2, and so on. This one, it comes out to be this. Okay, and just put down the values. That what is sine theta 2? Theta 2 0 is 0 degree. The sine of 0 degree is 0. Okay, cos of 0 degree is 1. Okay, so that's why here it comes out to be 1. And now the Jacobian matrix, and on these values, it comes out to be 10, 0, 0, and 10. Okay, so x comes out to be 0, 1 minus the inverse of Jacobian matrix into this fx. So this is the same as we have written here. Just see that this way. Okay, so this is how to write the final next iteration. X for the next iteration, x previous minus the inverse of Jacobian matrix into fx. Okay. Okay, so this value is for your next iteration. Okay, now similarly put down the values to calculate the next function, put down the values to calculate the next Jacobian matrix, and this now become your next x2 for the next iteration. Okay, and similarly proceed it for the third value. And you have seen here that this value fx3, it is very much closer to this value of fx2. Okay, so here we end the numerical, and by this way you have to calculate for the with the initial guess, firstly the Jacobian equations, complete matrix in the form of equations, then put down the values and then do the calculation part for 2 to 3 iterations. Okay, but as you see here, lots of steps are involved. Firstly, to calculate the Jacobian matrix and then to calculate this function values. Okay, so that's why a lots of computer memory is involved in this Newton-Raphson method. Okay, so a simple procedure now for the Newton-Raphson method. Firstly, form the Y-bus. Okay, this is the first step for both Gauss-Seidel or for the Newton-Raphson. Number 2, assume the initial value of the bus voltage VI naught and phase angles delta I for I is equals to 2, 3 up to n, as we have generally chosen that our bus number 1 is the slack bus. So that's why we have taken here the values from 2 to n for the load buses and phase angles for the PV buses. Normally we set assumed the bus voltage magnitude and its phase angle equal to the slack bus V1, that is equal to 1 angle 0 degree. Number 3, compute PI and QI for each load bus as we have done here. Okay. Firstly, we calculate what is the net load power and what is the net reactive power. Okay. After doing this Y bus calculation, the next step is to compute the real and reactive powers. Okay, from the given data on the system. Okay, then number 4, compute the scheduled errors for delta PI and delta QI, if any. So it's not key always there are errors. So if there are errors, just compute them. And these are the values. Okay, then okay, so in the next step number 5, compute the elements of Jacobian matrix after calculation of this real and reactive power, and then obtain the value of delta and voltage. Okay, the change in the delta values and change in the voltage values that are calculated on the ith bus, that is from number 2 to number n. Okay, then in the next step, using the values of these change in the delta and voltage calculated in the above step, modify the voltage magnitude and phase angle at all the buses by the equations shown below, like this. Like as we have already done in the Gauss-Seidel method, we modify them using the acceleration factor, okay, in one of the numerical. So here we are going to modify like for the next iteration. So the value at the previous iteration plus the delta value. Okay, and similarly for this phase angle, the value in the current iteration, that is equals to the value of phase angle in the previous iteration plus the delta value that is calculated here. Okay, so this is the procedure. And next in the number 8, start the next iteration cycle following the step 2 with the modified values of VI and delta I. Now again, you have to repeat the procedure from these steps but by using the modified values now, not the initial values that we have assumed. Okay, that are only for the starting purpose. Now we have to use the modified values for the next iteration. Number 9, continue until the scheduled errors for all the load buses are within a specified tolerance. That is, when delta IR is less than the tolerance value, and the tolerance value may be very small value, that is 0.0001. Okay, and similarly for the reactive power. Okay, so this epsilon is the tolerance level for the load buses. Now calculate the line and power flow at the slack bus, same as in the Gauss-Seidel. Okay, so similarly, then after this calculation, you have to calculate the line and power flow on the buses. Okay, so this is the complete procedure for the Newton-Raphson method. Okay, and as you've seen here, lots of equations are involved in this method. So it is a long method, and but the convergence is almost sure in this method. Okay, better results are achieved and speedy results are achieved. Okay, so some of the advantages and disadvantages for the Newton-Raphson method are, Advantages like the Newton-Raphson method is a faster method, more reliable, the results are accurate. Okay. It requires less number of iterations for convergence. That means the convergence is achieved earlier as compared to the Gauss-Seidel method. The number of iterations are independent of the size of the system. Okay, it is applicable for both small scale system also and for the large scale system also. Suitable for the large system. Okay, so for any type of system, we can be able to apply Newton-Raphson method. The disadvantages are the programming logic is more. Okay, more number of coding is required for this, and the memory requirement is also more, as the number of equations are more here. Okay, the number of calculations per iterations are high. Okay, so number of calculations are also more. So these are some of the advantages and disadvantages for the Newton-Raphson method. Now the simple comparison between the Gauss-Seidel and Newton-Raphson method. Number one, for the Gauss-Seidel, it requires the large number of iterations to reach the convergence, and still the convergence is not sure for the Gauss-Seidel. So this is the main drawback for the Gauss-Seidel. But for the Newton-Raphson method, requires less number of iterations to reach the convergence. Okay. Number two, computation time per iteration is less. Why it is less? Because the number of equations involved are less in case of Gauss-Seidel method, and easy to calculate equations are there. But here in the Newton-Raphson method, the computation time per iteration is more. Okay, because the large number of equations are involved in the Newton-Raphson method, and also the solving of equations is not simple. Here we have to take the multiple differentiations. Okay, not the simple plus, minus or multiply is there. The differentiation concept we have to introduce in it. Okay, so the computation time per iteration is more here. So now next, in the Gauss-Seidel, it has a linear convergence characteristics. The convergence characteristics is almost linear. Okay, and in the Newton-Raphson, it is quadratic convergence characteristics. Okay, and in the Gauss-Seidel, the number of iterations required for convergence increases with the size of the system. If the system is of large size, then its number of iterations required are also become very large. But here in the Newton-Raphson, the number of iterations are independent of the size of the system. Okay, whether the system is small, whether the system is large. So some fixed iterations are to be applied under each step, each calculation. In the Gauss-Seidel, less memory requirement. Why less? Because the number of equations are less, that's why. Okay, and in the Newton-Raphson, more memory requirements, as the calculation steps are more. Therefore, the more memory is required in case of the Newton-Raphson method. So this is all about the load flow methods that are generally used to solve the power flow equations, okay, that are applied on the different types of buses. Okay, and it is all in this chapter. Okay, so what we have covered in this chapter, that is starting with the different types of buses, then the mathematical formulation of the various power flow equations. Okay, and then the different methods used for solving these power flow equations, like we have covered the Gauss-Seidel method, we have covered the Newton-Raphson method, their mathematical formulations, the various equations that are involved while solving these methods. Okay, and their algorithms, their procedures, that how to proceed for the numerical or for the program. If you want to write the program for these methods, then how to proceed for the program, how to write the code. Okay, so different algorithms are discussed. So this is all about in this method for the in this chapter of the load flow analysis. Thank you.